These people are crazy in this house, which tells me I'm in the right place. Hanging with you guys. Anyway, how many of you guys follow PBN, by the way? How many? All right, well, first of all, thank you to all of you guys, because believe me, our team would not be able to do anything without you guys as viewers and such passionate groups around what's happening in the XRP ecosystem. So we're going to just jump right into it with Kevin and get into what's happening on the legislative front. And of course, a lot of this affects maybe the future of digital assets like we've never seen before. And it's coming at us at a pace in which we've never seen. So Kevin is going to get a chance to share with us a little bit about just that point.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I'm Kevin Ivers. I'm at DCI Group in Washington, and I also am on John Deaton's team at CryptoLaw, and we've got some of our group here as well. We're very, very honored to be here and to be part of this world, this community, fighting very hard to get information to you as fast as we can get it about what's going on in legal cases and regulatory developments and in the legislation. So I would say let's sort of look at a big picture. You all, this is a very sophisticated group, so you know basically what's going on. But let's take a step back. I would say that there are two very, very big things that have happened in recent years. They were both very good things that came as a result of very bad things. And the good things that happened were independently good for two reasons. Number one was the decision by Judge Torres in the case we all were involved in.
Yes.
And there's a lot of reasons why. We know it as the Ripple case. I think it's better described as the XRP case because the thing about this case that made it so unique wasn't just the timing and the fact that Ripple decided to fight and put resources into fighting when so many others either didn't have the resources or didn't want to fight. But the argument that the government made against XRP, saying that it was a crypto asset security and that it embodied an investment contract just by existing, and that every sale from the beginning until all of time, as John Deaton says, is a security. Whether you knew what Ripple was or whether you signed a contract for an investment or anything. This is such a sweeping argument. It came to, shall we say, embody everything that the SEC was trying to do to this technology by saying that a token itself is a security, no matter what it's used for, no matter what you trade it for, no matter what you hold it for, or whether you build a business on the XRP ledger that will use this native asset in a business that has nothing to do with the company being accused of making sales of this crypto asset security. That is such a sweeping argument. It was an existential threat to cryptocurrencies, to blockchain technology, to this entire space. And it was the argument to take down. Because taking that argument down, you saw in Judge Torres's decision, the line we all have come to memorize. Yep. The XRP token in and of itself, I'm paraphrasing, does not embody any of the provisions of the Howey test as a security, period. It was dicta, which means she didn't even cite case law. She just said, this is just a fact. And so now you, SEC, have come to me and said, all of these sales are securities, so punish this company. She said, okay, well, let's run all these sales through the Howey test. She did a very simple analysis and said, the vast majority of these are not securities. Yeah. And laid the groundwork for all of us to understand what the law actually does say. So that decision was absolutely critical for everybody in this space. And it set the tone, really, for how the regulation now needs to proceed, at least for people who understood what this technology is about. Yep. That provided a guideline for people in Congress. That certainly came to embody what commissioners on the SEC, like Hester Peirce and Mark Uyeda, have been saying about digital assets. And I'd say the second thing that happened that was very big, as you all, I'm sure, agree, it was the election. Elections matter. And this election created a 180, we were talking about this.
Yep.
An absolute 180 on crypto policy and on crypto regulation. And why does that matter? Yeah. For obvious reasons it matters, but when elections happen, and we see this every 2 years, really. There's really an election every 2 years, but when presidential elections happen and there's a big change, there's usually a big change in many agencies in terms of the way that they go. Look at the difference between the Trump administration at first and the Biden administration now. There's a lot that went on with Jay Clayton, Bill Hinman that still, as a lot of people in this room know, needs to be looked into. And there was a lot of on the public record about policy that was, not exactly great, but it was going in a particular direction. Then Gary Gensler comes in, and it was a radical change. The SEC has rarely been so activist. It is usually this sleepy little regulatory place that tries not to call attention to itself, tries to be nice with Wall Street and not upset the markets and not be a factor. Gary Gensler came in and hired a bunch of people and filled that agency with people who were going to take crypto down.
Well, he became a household name, too.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who the SEC commissioner was before Gensler.
Yeah.
So I think that was, and of course now, because of communities like this.
Because of a lot of you, he became famous.
He was the last commissioner.
Correctly, yes. Yes.
So,
and
that's good.
And you saw what he was doing. As we were working with John, we all were like you, were seeing on social media what Gensler was trying to do to fight back and how terrible he was at it. Because the story he had to tell was a false story.
Yeah.
It was a story that everyone in this room is a criminal, basically. And that he's the cop on the beat making sure that none of you are going to get away with all the nefarious things that you're doing. And it's based on a legal argument that was best summarized in the argument that the SEC made in the XRP case.
Yep, exactly. Kevin, when you look at the current setup within the SEC, Hester Pierce came on record, we just mentioned this earlier in the last panel. She's talking about a lot of things. One is that tokenization should be, more freely used, and that KYC is even not necessarily an issue when you look at some of these platforms that are in DeFi or within some of these ledgers.
Yes.
This is a major shift between the two major commissioners there, Mark Ueda and of course Hester. Do you think that there's any risk? I mean, this feels a little too good to be true, is what I'm getting at. What is your opinion right now of the current administration under Paul?
Well, I think keep in mind, every administration is actually quite big. There's a lot of different elements to it. It isn't all just one thing. Whatever the president talks about or the cabinet members talk about is one thing. They set a tone. And then down at the agency level, you get people typically that are thoughtful, that are focused in on their specific mission. We're really lucky, I think, that the people at the SEC now, Paul Atkins is a veteran. He was a commissioner years ago. He has a sort of a big picture idea of the markets, the capital markets, and also embraces the technology. So that's good as a chairman, because the chairman's job typically is not like the way that Gensler defined it, where he's, a crusader, out there with the sword. It's much more, the chairman's job is to set the agenda, build consensus, get 3 votes, preferably 4 or 5, on advancing policy that people agree and that reflect what the administration generally wants to accomplish, but what will move the capital markets forward in a way that's safe. And so what you've got now, you have Paul Atkins is a veteran, very smart, very experienced man, good chairman, understands his job to build consensus, but to move the ball forward, to have productive meetings, to initiate policy, to do rulemaking. Hester Peirce, she has a long history before she entered the SEC of working at the Mercatus Center in Washington, which is a George Mason University. Some of you may also know Professor J.W. Verrett, who is very active on social media. he is an old friend and colleague of Hester Peirce, and there's a lot of really smart people from this community and in the crypto space around Hester. She's a very, very serious policymaker. She has been talking about a lot of these things that have been catching people's attention, like about, like you said, the KYC and AML question, which I'll talk about. She's been thinking about these things for a long time, and not just in the context of crypto, but in the context of the capital markets in general.
Well, and this is going to affect so much in terms of digital assets in the future. And if you look at the structure of what the SEC is trying to build out now, and we do get some good regulatory framework also aligning, whether it's a market structure bill and obviously a stablecoin bill coming through. I mean, how much of a leap forward do you think that put, because we've never seen anything like this in I think, in any of our time. This is a new, almost like blue sky opportunity for digital assets. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I'd say we need to understand where we are in terms of the environment, and it's on the corporate and building and developer side, as well as on the political, regulatory, social side. They're all beginning to converge. And it is real. It's not just a bunch of marketing BS. It's really happening. You have builders now much freer than they've ever been before to actually start developing products and services that the government is not going to persecute them over anymore. At least you've got that. You have now investment. You've got capital moving into this space from institutional investors, not just those that are trying to use stable coins and see the utility of the technology, but understand the long-term play. Not just in tokens, but in building wealth around products and services that are going to change people's lives. Those builders have got to come together with the consumers and the users that are out there that in the future are going to adopt these products and services, are going to have them on their phones and using them all the time, going to take them abroad, companies that are going to use them, new industries that are going to be built because this technology exists. The builders and the consumers and users have to find each other in the middle, and up until now, the government has been in the way. And now the government is gone. So Hester understands that. The stuff that she's talking about, the KYC AML thing is very interesting because I found a quote that gives you some context on it. She has been saying this for years now, and not just about crypto, that the regulatory state has been trying to basically turn everything in the capital markets into a bank through KYC and AML being way over-applied. Not to say that you don't do it, but you have to do it on a risk basis and not an all basis. She said, if we try to squeeze all the risk out of the system and make everything look like a bank, we will end up with worse capital markets. It's something that we have to think about when we're writing rules. Are the rules preventing new products and services from coming out of an industry?
So why do you think that didn't resonate with Gensler? I mean, why? I mean, because you've got Ueda and Peirce sitting in his ear. All the, was this strictly driven?
He was a professor. He understood blockchain.
MIT. Why, do you think it was purely administration, and that was all it took, was an administration shift?
No, I think it was calculated. I think it was one of the many stories that you see in government. Somebody came in wanting to become a star, seeing an opportunity, and was talking to probably all the wrong people in a very small bubble about how easy this was going to be. And didn't think there would be an army of retail.
XRP army.
Had no idea that he would. Somebody wrote this during the fight. He had no idea that the SEC was stirring a hurricane of resistance that would not just be retail people on social media, but would be political and would have consequences. He provoked the movement of crypto. You're talking about an industry, and I'm just from a political perspective, from someone in Washington who looks at the big picture. Silicon Valley.
Wait a minute. Are you saying we should thank Gensler?
Well, cause and effect.
Okay, all right.
Cause and effect. He thought this would be easy. Silicon Valley is not exactly a bastion of conservatism. If anybody who's been there, it's pretty out there, politically, historically. However, the enmity, the falsehoods, the attack that this man mounted on this industry, look at what it provoked.
Well, I think it's also solidified the future of digital assets now.
Yeah.
It has accelerated it maybe as much as a decade,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do not realize. If you look at what's happening when we think about regulation, as it is right now, and I'm always a skeptic, you know, because I've looked at this industry for a long time, and I'm always wondering, follow the money, you know, is usually the narrative. And you look at the amount of big banks that could be coming into this space. And that means whether it's holding digital assets or getting into stablecoins, those kind of things. Do you think we're going to run into any kind of headwind with banking trying to make their way into this space?
I guess it depends on what you define as we. I think
this
initiators, yes. The innovators will always have to struggle with the legacy players who finally go, all right, we're not going to fight this anymore. We're going to run it.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people in the space who've been talking about this on social media, content creators, podcasters, been warning about this, because history tells us that's always going to happen. It probably will. This technology, though, we have to remind ourselves is different, because, you know, DEXs are just different.
Yeah.
And the things that are being built, some of them, yeah. I mean, JP Morgan built an internal system where they use a stable coin that they created just for their high-end customers to move their money around the world. It was a way of saying, look, you screw all of you, you know, and JP Morgan's head will say, you know, I'm never going to own Bitcoin. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
They saw the utility of it in 2017, and they invested in it, and they've been using it. They're doing billions of dollars in transactions a day inside their walled garden. Mm-hmm. These guys understand this technology. They've understood the value of it for years. The question is absolutely this. Imagining the future from now it's very big. It's like the internet in the late 80s,
right,
for the people who understood what it was. It's very hard, though, to predict where it's going to go. I think that something that's unique about this technology is that its capacity to generate wealth and efficiencies and remove friction and allow for access to capital is unique. And it's going to be hard. If they capture it early on, there may be like the AOL effect.
Well, that could be the case, because if you look at the early stage of the internet, it was a lot of ragtag developers that were building the architecture behind it. When Tim Berners-Lee started HTTP and the whole design, the architecture was there, and then all of a sudden you had
Microsoft,
AOL.
Microsoft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my point is that if you get into where banking now, maybe they are the AOL of the future. Are they the new gatekeepers that could be?
But then let's even look further. Why did AOL fail? Because AOL understood that mass adoption needed to happen really fast. Grandma needed to get on the internet. We needed to make it so easy. Just like, here's the disk, you got it for free, and you pay a certain amount a month, and it's so easy to get on, and you're in this happy, safe, walled garden where everything is as simple as you can imagine. And the scarier thing is the computer, not AOL.
And then the internet happened.
But then broadband happened, and AOL bought a media company and didn't have the infrastructure to capitalize on it and fell apart because they lost control of their own story. They were trying to keep it trapped to be able to profit off of it.
The banks will fall for that every time.
I'm telling you, like, the thing about this technology is peer-to-peer transactions in 3 to 5 seconds. I'm sorry, you can't. It's like trying to make money off of email. It's not going to happen. It's going to be free.
This is going to be a conversation we're definitely going to continue here at the event. Kevin, thank you very much for your time today.
Anytime. Thank you, everybody.
You guys, we got some big ones coming up. So again, we're on time. Thank you so much for your time today. And I know they're doing, I think we got another one coming. So see you guys later.
Take care.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Yep. What's happening, guys? We have a very exciting panelist coming on board here. Crypto at a crossroads, navigating a new regulatory landscape. with moderator Eleanor Terrett, panelist John Deaton, James Metal Lawman Murphy, and Mr. Cody Carbone.